already. This is our first lesson of the year. Time flies. So we continue with our study of volume 17, or more correctly 17A, because this is a double volume. It's about 5 aggregates, a very important topic in Buddhism, or Buddhist psychology, if you like. Because these 5 aggregates describes what we really are, an extension of the idea of body and mind into 5 aspects. They are aspects, they're not separate realities, not separate entities, they all work together. Okay. Or another way we can look at this is 5 ways of looking at how we function, or how our minds function, if you like. In fact, if we say, we use the word we, what are we talking about? We're talking about our mind and body. In a sense, when we talk about body also, we're talking about the conscious body. We're not talking about the dead body, because the dead body can't do anything except rocks. So, in Buddhism, the Buddha addresses the living body, or the more exactly, the conscious body. And there's even a Pali term for it. It's called sa vinyanaka kaya. Vijnana, as you know, means consciousness. Sa is a prefix meaning with. And then it's an adjective. Sa vinyanaka kaya. Kaya means consciousness. Of course, the dead body also can be useful to the living. It's used as a meditation. But that's another area we'll probably talk about another time. So, we talked a bit about the body, or form, rupa, sometime back in this lesson. Today we'll cover a bit the last part of this section on the body, which is chapter 17, 2b, matter and moments. This is one chapter, frankly, I dread to teach, because it's Abhidharma. Lots of technical terms. I would invite you to read these on your own, in the details. And from there are lots of footnotes, cross-references. If you're interested, you go on reading this. Always remember, whenever we study such topics, especially Abhidharma, we have to ask one very basic question. How does this help me to understand the suttas better? If they don't, then you just skip the part. If you don't understand it yet, don't be discouraged. Just skip the part, the time is not right. Just continue reading the rest. Don't give up, don't throw away the book just because it's one section which is so difficult. Just go to the rest. You might find the other sections are very interesting, or certain sections are very interesting. You know, all we need is just a part of a book, just a part of a reading, maybe a page, maybe just a paragraph on a page, or maybe one sentence, sometimes one word. I love words that could contain ideas very clearly. This was very important to me. I always make a note of that and then use them when I can. And that makes the teaching very clear. Not only clear, we also want it to be beautiful. Clear means truth, beautiful, of course, beauty. Buddhism is always about truth and beauty. So this is the duality of Buddhism. Normally we don't talk about duality, but when you communicate with the world, you need some kind of duality. You've got 2 eyes. I noticed that, you notice like, I got a sunyata specs here. Oh, I don't know, you notice, I remove the lens because my eye power is 0 here. I don't need any lens. This is my old eye, this is my new eye after the operation. But if I close one eye and try to look, I wouldn't see so clearly. So I need 2 eyes to kind of get the average. That makes things clear. It's very interesting, how we see things in 2 ways, but you see them as one. Right? 2 eyes, but you see things as one. So although we talk about wisdom, compassion, we talk about what they call various aspects of the Buddha, Vijacharana and so on, these are aspects of the Buddha. Truth and beauty. The fact that Buddha got enlightened is his wisdom. And then he decides to teach others is the compassion. And yet, in both wisdom and compassion, one has the other also. So you have to kind of like be aware of that, and we're talking about emphasis here, basically. Yeah? So, coming back to this metta and moments, it's talking about form and our bodies. We exist in time. In fact, to say we exist in time, it's just repeating yourself. What's the word? We call it tautology, right? Tautology. Because to exist, it must be in time. Whatever exists in time. To exist means to come out into time, to appear in time, to have something to do with time. In other words, it's impermanent. That's the only way to exist. It's not that the Buddha is impermanent, but since the Buddha exists, he has to pass away. And that's the nature of things. That is why in Buddhism, we just find no good reason to believe in the God ideas as a being that's permanent, unchanging. It's meaningless, but a very nice way of talking, But you've got to really know the difference between nice way of talking and truth, right? We like to tell stories, listen to stories, we watch TV stories. Fiction is fine, as long as the fiction teaches us a higher reality, either in terms of joy or in terms of truth. Ultimately, even the purpose of truth is to make us joyful. We forget this. This is the basic idea. In a sense, you might say, if you ask yourself what is the purpose of life, one simple answer, there are many ways of answering this. For today, I might say the purpose of life is to be happy. Usually, I would say the purpose of life is to grow. In Pali, we say bhavana, right? But if you talk about growing, ultimately, what is it you grow into, or you grow up for happiness, right? That's why nirvana is associated with happiness, joy. Of course, we can even begin by being happy, but we got to be conscious of it, right? For example, those of you who meditate, very often you might hear your teachers tell you, smile in your meditation, cultivate loving kindness, because if you are happy, it's easier to meditate. If you are happy, especially if you have loving kindness, it's easier to keep the precepts. Because if you're not happy and you're angry, how will you keep the precepts? You find better reason to break the precepts. If you're happy, you have a never mind attitude. Alright? So sometimes you have problems, your stupid friend will tell you, it's alright. Now, that is the worst thing you can tell someone is a problem. Imagine your house just burned down, your spouse just ran away, and then his friend tell you, it's alright. I think in this technology that is quite right in a sense, but I wouldn't recommend it. Instead, the person can say, never mind. And never mind is not too bad, Never mind means what? Don't think too much about it. Right? Don't think too much about it. Because it's already gone, finished. Don't think too much about it. What is it that we need to mind? The present moment. Right? Watch the present moment. But this present moment is real. And this present moment is the only time you can do anything or solve any problem. So if you let go of the present moment, you won't solve anything. If you let go of the present moment, you think of the past, you think of the future, what is that called? There's a nice word for that in English. It's called worry. Worry is something you think of the past, you think of the future, you can't do anything about it because you're helpless. You're helpless because the past is gone, the future is going to come. Simple as that. So this matter of moment, or moment and matter, is to understand the nature of impermanence. Impermanence is not only real, it also makes life beautiful. For example, we love diamonds. We value diamonds. Why? Because they're hard to get. If you can get them easily everywhere, then the value goes down. Right? And we are all impermanent. And yet we go through life as if we're going to live forever. That's okay. But we should not use ourselves too long. Okay? We have to occasionally reflect that our friends, our spouses, our children are all impermanent. But if we stop there, yeah, it's a negative truth. This reflection makes us reflect on the significance of what do I do about it. Well, since life is impermanent, people are impermanent, we should do what we can, all the good things with them, because we are all impermanent. So this type of impermanence is a very powerful reminder for us to have quality time. So it's very positive. You can look at things in different ways. Something very simple happened 2 days ago, and yet to me it has profound significance. From simple event to simple joy, simple truth. No truth is simple, by the way. But check is a simple truth. Just because it's so simple and yet it's so real. It is the very linchpin of reality, if you like. It's how we must reflect on life, the two ways of looking at things. Right? You can look at it negatively or positively. It's a very simple event. This student of mine came to class, and then he put his wallet and his handphone under the desk at the TMC. And then he goes off. And then he showed he forgot. He realized he has forgotten his 2 key things. His wallet with all the driver's license and money and cards, and his handphone. So he messaged me and said, "Oh, I left my things in the center." I said, "Well, if you want, you can go right away and get it." I said, "It's okay. I'll just go tomorrow." And then the next day he told me, he said, in a sense it felt good. I don't have all these things. Driving without a license and no phone. I felt so peaceful for one whole night. And I was amazed that he could say that. Other people were worried, So, oh dear, what's going to happen to my phone and so on. Then after that, he sent me a very nice message. So I wrote back and said, I'm just reflecting on the fact that you left things of relative value to you in such a place. For me, I will never let my wallet leave my pocket as long as I'm out of the house. Because I always have this fear, I will lose it, I'll get into serious trouble. Because I'm not very imaginative with how to get money on the road, how to get a bus, and things like that. So I told myself, let's keep it with me. So what I'm saying is that this person who left his wallet and phone away from himself, under the desk, in TMC, said, wow, this guy must really trust TMC and Piya so much, to allow his most precious possession to be apart from him. So to me, it's almost like a compliment, I say, wow, you trust me. So I feel very happy about that. Of course, why I say this is, we could say, what a careless person this is, and we would get upset and angry. So that's the other choice. So you have 2 choices. You can think happily, positively, or you can think of negatively. Either one is true in a sense, but why not choose the happy truth? So this is a choice you should make. See? I wrote this email to him with these same words I told you, but at the bottom of it I say, I'm writing this because I want you to remember this event. Because one day you may need to tell this to someone you love very, very much. You meet a girl, your future wife, whatever. You will have to deal with the same situation. You have 2 ways of looking at things. You either look at this person as a mistake or as the positive expression of something dear to you. So these are choices we make. So, in other words, we have only a certain amount of time with people. So how we value the time, how we look at the time, how we treasure time will show the quality of life that we have. So now coming back to Buddhist teachings of impermanence, which is the center of Buddhist teachings. In the sutras, you find there's just one word, impermanence, anicca. So you can see the diagram at the back. It's just a duration. It's impermanent. That's all very simple in the sutras. Then in the Abhidhamma, you find the scholastics, the great thinkers of Buddhism, they decide to go to details. So you have sort of a sine curve. They divide into three parts. You can kind of forget something, right? So you have the arising, the duration, the cessation. In a sense, these teachings are implicit in the sutras. The Buddha kind of indirectly talk about those things. So the Buddha is trying to make it more technical in life. For example, when you meditate, in the Satipatthana Sutta, he stated that you reflect on whatever has arisen or has passed away. Okay? For example, while meditating, you feel a numbness or pain. You can choose to notice all this pain arising. This is the one. Or as you meditate, you find this pain is dissipating, disappearing. You can do that also. Or you can do both, rising and passing away. You can notice the pain rising, passing away. But if you look carefully, if you observe carefully, you will notice there is almost a kind of space where there is a kind of like a staying moment, a duration, kind of changeover. So it goes up, the pain goes up, and it peaks for a moment, and then it passes away. Something like that. You see this in your breath meditation also. I call it the gaps, or the spaces. After sitting for a while, you feel very peaceful. Your breath slows down. The breath comes in, and then there is space, a gap. That's the peak. Okay? And then the breath goes out, and then there's a gap again. So you have this sine curve of the breath, in, out, in, out. So you see, in fact, you can reflect impermanence in the breath also. In, and then space, out, space, in, space. So you've got the peaks and the troughs, as sometimes they call it. So that is the nature of impermanence. So you see it everywhere, right down at the very root of reality itself. So this is how we reflect on permanence. And so nature, metta in other words, is not static, although this table seems solid. But it is only static for a while. Of course, this while is a long while. Maybe, well, if you leave this table quite, this space stands long enough, maybe 100 years or longer, right? But it will have to break up one day. It will break up. Definitely at the end of the world, but not on December 21st, as you know. Right? We survived that. So we got so worried about it, but here we are. It's just the end of the calendar, and some people just like to dramatize things, all right? So you notice you have some friends, and some people probably will say, oh, die, and so on. And you got another friend who say, let's see what we can do about it. So in a way, it's good to have a mix of friends. So as long as you know how to respond to them in a positive way. So the summary of the diagram is here on page 61, right? So all this you can read up. Lots of theory here. But there is a bit of warning here. Remember, all these theories is going to affect your meditation. So don't read this before meditation. This is for your education, so that you can have intelligent discussion with people if necessary to bring up all these points. But once you start meditating, you have to forget about all this theory. You put it into practice. It's not that theory is not important. Nowhere in Buddhism we say learn the books, except maybe some misguided Zen masters, of course. They tell you learn the books, learn the language. Very bad, you know. So this is where they all have a place in our learning process. Right? Okay, any questions on this aspect before we go on to the next section? Okay, next big chapter. Chapter 3, healing. So we finished one big area called Rupa. Now the second of the 5 aggregates called Vedana, feeling. Look at the word Vedana. Anyone remember the root for Vedana? The root is vid, spelled V-I-D. From the root vid, we get an English word wit, W-I-T. Right? Wit means, in English, wit means, in our times, it was almost a sense of cunning actually. But in the earlier time, it simply means to know things. Even in German, it still retains the meaning to know. So, Vedana has this broad meaning of knowing. But it is usually translated as feeling, and for good reason. So we're going to find out today why it translated as feeling, what are feelings, and how to behave with it. So, you know, we have sometimes in the suttas, this is on page 64, in the sutta, for example, Anutara 1058, there is a saying that all mental states flow along with feeling. If you don't have feeling for something, you will never know it. You're not experiencing it. Because whenever we experience something, there's always some level of feeling. Well, in a sense, all the 5 aggregates are there in our case. But to have all the aggregates together it's too big, so we try to narrow down to the essentials. So let's go back to the basics again. You got body and you got mind, right? So where feeling comes in, we have bodily feeling, mental. Okay. Now, even in early Buddhism, where the Buddha is concerned, it's very clear. He says there are 3 feelings: pleasant feeling, painful feeling, neutral feeling. Now you may wonder, oh, these are such simple facts, you know. But if you look up any of those, the biggest psychology dictionary you can find, or any kind of dictionary, philosophical dictionary, that defines feeling, you will find nobody agrees. All the experts are not agreeing. For example, if you look up an artistic book on feeling, which tell you to define it with art, you get the poet to define it, another wonderful, beautiful definition. The philosophers, again, another set of definitions. The psychologists, another set of definitions. They're not agreeing. Okay? In fact, I've taken some examples here. You know? Feeling, emotion, and so on. I think we'll come to that in a while. Okay? Maybe not jump here first. You find there's so many definitions. In others, people are not very certain of it, or they use it in different ways. The Buddhist interest is how do we have ourselves? How do we understand ourselves, that we may understand others? How do we become happy here and now, not in the future, not a posthumous thing? Those are stories we live by. We do not know whether we will go there. But how do we feel happy right now? How can I sit here almost every week and somewhere talking endlessly? Some people, sometimes I wonder, well, I one day sit there suddenly not knowing what to say. And here I am enjoying this, telling you about the suttas, because the suttas are amazing. They're such joyful things, joyful teachings. So we've got to ask these kind of basic questions in life. Ask the right question. You ask the right question, you get the right answer. You look for the right answers, you'll never find it if you don't have the right questions. So in Buddhism, right question, then you get right answer. When the Buddha saw the 4 sides, or first 3 sides rather, he asked questions. Say, what's going on here? Is this, what's going to happen to me? How do I get out of it? You know? So he asked a few questions, and I think some of them were the right ones. Especially the last, the 4th side. wow, this happy holy man, that must be the answer. You know? In a sense, the holy man is not a question, it's an answer. You know? But Bodhisattva has to ask, how do I get there? How do I become this holy man? So this is where, if you go for talks, you know, Dharma talks, go study like this, it should raise more questions. For example, you should ask yourself, how can I apply this to my life? How is it that I find this topic difficult to understand? Or if you're happy about this, why is it I feel happy about this? So when you ask these kind of questions, the teaching becomes fuller inside you, because you begin to deepen all this understanding and connect the various disparate teachings together in kind of beautiful, complete whole. No, in a sense, you know, today I like to use the imagery of a painting. I often use the imagery of music, right? Today I like to use the imagery of a beautiful masterpiece, a painting. So a teacher is like this art guide, you know? And this huge wall mural, and then you all the students are very near the picture, you know, very near. So this teacher is telling, okay, look at how this artist paints this color, the hue, and look at how he draws the hand or the faces, and look at the angle of the head, and look at this person, how he's standing, how he's dressed, and look at the depth, the perspective, and see how this artist uses or distorts perspective and so on. And art has got this fantastic way of talking. And then following way, they say, okay, let's take a step back further. You know, so as you go back, and you begin to see the picture more bigger picture, as we say. And finally, you see the whole picture. And it's very different from when you're very near examining the two bits and pieces. So we're studying all these things about feeling and perception and form and so on. These are the looking up the picture up close. And then you have to stand back. How do all these bits and pieces work together? That's when you look at life. When you go back and you get out of this hall. It's very protected, very nurturing, very formative cocoon where we are here. That's how we are created here. This very wonderful cocoon of learning and safety and security and happiness. Such cocoons never last long. So you enjoy it while you can. If you don't pay attention, more the phone rings and you run down, I captured you for a while, it's too bad. So it's very important the attention is there. So that you get everything during this 1.5 hours more or less. And then you look at this picture and say, wow, there's nothing I can say. It's so joyful. But no words. And these pictures are impermanent. You know how many world masterpieces have been stolen and lost? Right? So enjoy them while you can. So what are paintings about? They're not about colors and pictures. They're about feeling. You look at this picture and you feel really good and happy about it. Somebody is not happy with the painting of Prince William's wife. I don't know why. You've got to ask those people why you're not happy with the final appearance.
Oh,
yeah?
it really was the eye expression
okay.
wrong.
So yeah, so you have the art critic there, right?
Oh, the eye expression is
okay.
wrong. Looks like a very sick person.
Okay, so we all have our perspective on art, right? So in a sense, you have to apply this to all this what you see in life also. But however, unlike art, this picture we see before us is shifting and changing all the time. So in a sense, we can't really criticize this art before us, which is our life. We can only question. The best way is to question. Of course, you can. You can use the word critical analysis. Yeah, that helps. Meaning you look at these in terms of parts. These are two ways in these teachings. One is to look at things in terms of parts, like the aggregates, and then to see them as a whole. Right? So two ways of looking at them, as parts and as a whole. So when we talk about feelings, again, you see the feeling is kind of reaction to a certain event, and then after that you come away, and then you think about the feeling again, and you find you get a bigger picture. Right? For example, you see something, you might make you angry. That's a feeling. Okay? Why do you feel angry? You have felt something unpleasant, right? At that moment. Right? Then you ask yourself, why do I feel unpleasant here? And you ask that question, why? And you investigate, wisdom arises. You are looking at the bigger picture. So always look at the bigger picture, right? So that's one lesson we learn from here. So you have physical feeling, mental feeling. Bodily feelings are such that you can't really escape. Whether you are awakened or unawakened, whether you are yourself or you are the Buddha, you will feel the same painful feeling. I can use the same little pin, which I should not, by the way, poke myself, and I poke you as an awakened being. We both feel the same pinprick because it's a body, physical body. Right? So the Buddha asked this question in one of the suttas. He asked the monks, how is it that an unawakened person feels pain, and an awakened being also feels pain? So what's the difference? The monks were quite new, so they couldn't answer. They said, we are your students, and we depend on you, please give us an answer. Buddha, all right, then the Buddha answers, okay, in the case the body is not explained. The difference is this. When we suffer bodily pain, which is natural, we let it get to the head, as they say. Right? I don't know whether it's not such an English expression to get it to don't let it get to your head. Right? But the meaning is different there, you see. Now here, when I say in this context of what I'm talking about the aggregates, don't let it get to your head, it means you got to leave this pain on the body. It's a bodily pain. And if you think about it, you expand on it, you start commenting on it, you start moaning and complaining, moaning and moaning and complaining, that it has got to your head. So the Buddha says, then you are like someone who is shot by one arrow to the body, and the next arrow is to the head, to the mind. So you suffer on two levels. So in other words, the unawakened person suffers twice. Bodily pain, mental pain. Whereas the awakened person, like the Buddha, he has bodily pain, but he doesn't bother on the mental level. He is free from the mental aspect of suffering. That's the difference. So this is where he wouldn't bother about the kind of suffering. Okay? So this is a very important difference to reflect on, so that we can let go of the physical suffering. Let it be what it is, no more, no less, and let it go. We won't be troubled by it. Now the next aspect is how do we define feeling? Feeling and sensation, section 1.2. This is where, when we talk about such things in Buddhism, we have very clear terms. We must be very careful about what terms we use. If someone talks about the aggregates in public, we must make sure these terms are clear. For example, feeling and sensation, they are two very different things. Sensation is a very broad term. Feeling is more narrow, so to speak. So, sensation describes the working of the senses, especially the five physical senses of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. And how we react to this is feeling. This is the Buddhist psychology. When we talk in our daily life, conventionally, we often mix the words up. But that's fine. That's not about understanding. But when you want to describe the real process going on in terms of the aggregate, you will be more sure. terms. There are lots of interesting reflections here by various careful scholars like Sue Hamilton on the nature of feelings. So she has written a monogram on the 5 aggregates. You can read that if you like. So she agrees that, the word feeling is the best term to translate Vedana. However, Vedana is a noun. You have various verbs or Vedana. One of the most famous verb is Pati Samvedeti. Pati is a prefix meaning like a sort of interaction. And then you've got sam in the English com, meaning to bring together, meaning in a focused way. And then you have way, meaning to know, okay, to feel, and then the verb. Third person singular, Pati Samvedeti is the root. Okay? Now usually this is translated as to experience. To experience. Right? So because, of course, on occasion you can translate to feel actually, but generally it's best translated as experience. So this is where you see the problem in translating Pali. There are no fixed translation for a word. You have to see the context. Of course, what Buddha translates as awakened one, yes. I'm not saying you can simply translate any way you like. What I'm saying is, for example, Vedana you translate as feeling. But Pati Samvedeti, you cannot always take for granted it translate as feel. It will not bring the right sense, especially in English. Because when you translate into English. And the people who are reading it do not know Pali, they might not even have a Buddhist sense if you like. There was a time, about like 50 years ago backwards, Western scholars who are English trained, that means coming from a Judo-Christian background, they have to really take pains to make sure the words they use do not conjure up a kind of a wrong image of the Buddhist teachings. So they have to be very careful to avoid certain words. But thankfully, nowadays we don't have to be so wary. In fact, I'm not too concerned about this kind of issues. One is that because in the West, you have this dominant religion, Christianity is having such a strong influence on the scholars. My point is quite simple. Now, we are told that dictionaries define words, right? The right question is, who defines dictionaries? Who writes dictionaries? You know what I mean? So ultimately, we are the ones who define the words. OED, Oxford English Dictionary, every few years, or actually it's an ongoing thing, they've got this panel of experts who do nothing but their whole life they spend looking through books, and they check what kind of new words have been invented and widely used. And then they will decide whether such words should enter the OED or not, Oxford English Dictionary or not. So in other words, the more you use the words, the more eligible it is to enter the dictionary. But does that mean only words that are in the dictionary qualify as the words of a culture or language? Not true. Because there are many words we use, especially among close friends, you find you know the meaning, but no one else outside the group knows, and that's good enough for me. And then in Buddhism also, we have that kind of situation, It's very meaningful in Buddhism, but not so meaningful outside of Buddhism. So my point is this, as Buddhists, we've got to understand that meaning very clearly, go on talking about that meaning, and when you look at the word, make sure that meaning arises in your head. Right? I still have very wonderful Buddhist friends, who then I realized actually, although they know a lot of Buddhism, there are certain things still ingrained in their head. This year I had this wonderful, pleasant surprise. I got a Christmas gift from my Buddhist student. Okay, he didn't say Happy Christmas, but the spirit is given, I knew because of the occasion. Well, I accepted it in good faith, and of course, gently wrote to him the meaning of giving. December 25th is Buddhist Renewal Day, and so on. Okay? So these are called sociology of religion. You know how a dominant culture can still, in a sense, control our mind. So we have to work with that. We have to work to free ourselves of those things gradually, and we can do that. So when you study the suttas, you know the meaning, you remember the meaning, and the word say the word Buddha. And then it's wonderful image appears in your mind. Samadhi, you feel a sense of peace. That's how it should work. That's the meaning of ritual in Buddhism. When we bow down, you have this wonderful feeling, wow, I can bow down. That means Buddhism is still around. Every time we chant Namo Tassa, I feel very joyful. You know, every time we recite this puja, that means Buddhism is still around. You can't do this in Kuwait or Afghanistan. Not quite simple. Taliban might shoot you. So this is where you could do this here. It's wonderful. As long as these holy words are spoken, the teaching is available, so to speak. Yeah? So when you reflect in this way, joy arises in you. And that's the one practicing. Right? So coming back to feeling and vedana and sensation. So the sensation has got a cognitive aspect as well as an affective aspect. These are two big words. Knowing aspect, cognitive, and feeling aspect, affective. We know and we feel. Oh dear, this is quite a tricky part. Huh? Sometimes in my reflection, I try to make happy words come alive. I get feedback, long scientific treatises, telling me how I should define happiness and all these terms, which I do appreciate because they are very helpful to help me think. Anyway, the point is this. We know something. This is one way, not a complete idea. We cognitively, generally we understand as the working of the physical senses. We see, hear, smell, taste, touch, and we know what's going on through the five senses. And then, in a sense, including the mind, thinking also in Buddhism, right? Thoughts coming to you. They just arise. So it's cognitive. Right? Cognitive is the adjective for consciousness. Right? How you deal with this, how you respond to this, that's called feeling. Okay, this is a dictionary definition. But the reality is they are not two separate experiences. They overlap one another. In a sense, you cannot just know without feeling. Not really. It might be possible in certain levels of meditation. When you come out with meditation, that's very clear. But it's not easy in our daily life. Okay? For example, students listen to a lesson in class. Even now, some parts I come to and say, oh, I know this one, and I don't feel like learning anymore. I feel bored. So the question now is it my talk is boring or you are a boring person? You better know. Okay. My point is this, we're talking about how the mind works. You hear something and you say, I want to know this. So we are not just knowledge sponges, We're not robots, we're not computers. We don't just collect knowledge. We do it with feeling. Oh, I like this information, or I don't like this one. But we listen. So they go together. So what the Buddha has done is he's analyzing and says, look, there's two aspects. But if you are positive in the feeling aspect, the learning aspect becomes easier, more interesting, more than. So you have a psychology of learning. So there are more interesting details here about cognitive aspects and affective aspects if you want to read. Or here, page 65 onwards. Feeling and emotion. Another troublesome word. Emotion. Our young people in this generation even have the word emo, which was never had in my time. In your time, I'm sure, never had the word emo. I still am not very clear what emo means. Of course, something to do with emotion, definitely. The best people to define it, get your teenage son to explain it. Okay? I'm not qualified to explain it in proper definition. Anyway, emotion. You can see all the definitions given to you on page 66. Okay, it says the word emotion, 1.3, Fourth line. The word emotion comes from the Middle French, mouvoir, to move, which in turn comes from Latin ex movere or immovere, to move out, move away. Notice the word ex or a, it means out. In other words, emotion is something moving out of you. It's being expressed. Even the word express, see? Express means you show out a feeling. Why? To impress somebody. Now, in and in are the same prefix. It changed to M because of the P, press, impress. You want to make this other person remember you in a good way. So emotion is something we express outwardly. That's the general sense of it. However, what about feelings? Feeling and emotion, are they the same thing? Again, in daily life we tend to, overlap and mix them, right? But the reality in Buddhist psychology, they're very different. Remember, feeling 3 kinds: pleasant, painful, neutral. Emotions, on the other hand, for our purposes, we can say it involves karma. Okay? Emotion is the ethical tone of your response. Anger, hatred, happiness, those are emotions. But how you feel about them, do you like them, don't like them, or don't care about them, that's feeling. Okay? So this is a simple way of looking at it. Now, let's look at this diagram which was summarized what I said so far. Here, this diagram, sorry I'm not familiar with this diagram already. So here you have a sense of quality, that means it can be an eye, ear, nose, tongue, body or mind. I'm going to circle this. Sense organ, sense object. Let's say here's the eye, and here you see something, but the mind must be present. This is attention, right? So the mind is a big concept, so here, attention. When these 3 things get together, there is contact. Contact or sense impression. Sense stimulus in modern science. There is the visual object, eye consciousness, you have eye contact. And once in other words, you see something, feeling arises. This is something we need to know, the context of it. Feeling arises from our interaction with the external world, through our senses. We see something. The moment we see something, the mind will look through its database and say, okay, am I going to like this, dislike this, or don't care about it? How do I do that? We can't hear it. Perception. We perceive this. Perceive means to recognize. Recognize. That means you recognize it earlier through consciousness. Now you do it again. Meaning you look back into the past. Something happened in the past and then it reminds you of that thing in the past. So if the past event is happy, you see the present one also as happy. If it reminds you of something bad, let's say if I look at this bottle and I feel unhappy because somebody bashed me with a bottle long ago, I say, oh no, I hate bottles. So then you have an negative response. Or you've never seen bottle before, like the Bushra of the Kalahari, you don't know what it is, right? So there's no response. So you have this feeling at 3 kinds. Pleasant, painful, neutral, through our perception or lack of perception. And whether you like something or dislike it, craving will arise. Craving means you see something and you like it. Okay? And then if you like something, whatever prevents you from liking it, you are not going to like that. So it's a 2 sides of the coin, like, dislike, good. And once you have something, you tend to grasp it. Or if you don't have any thinking occurs, you start thinking, oh, I want this, right? So then you think about it, the thinking grows, then eventually there's grasping, and then you don't need to grasp because you are afraid of losing these things. Suffering arises, and 1,000 thoughts will explode in your head, things or that's called mental proliferation. So when people say don't think too much, it's quite meaningful, right? Because they are actually talking about this. In Buddhism, it becomes very meaningful. Mental proliferation means thinking too much. So I hope everything makes sense so far to you. Right? So there is a bit of summary here about what I've just spoken, section 1.4. You can find in the sutta, for example, they summarize into 6 stages how this happens in terms of feeling. Page 68. The first stage is that of sense consciousness. For example, visual consciousness, how we see things. Right? You see visual object, right? Something, either form, color, or shape in front of you. Second stage, the process of sense impression. Chakku sampassa. First one is chakku vinyana, sense consciousness. Second one is chakku sampassa, sensory impression, or simply passa. Defined as the conjunction of sense organ, sense object, sense consciousness, the triangle at the top. Okay? Then the third stage is feeling. It refers to the hedonic tone, how we respond in terms of feeling this experience. And then there is perception, or to be more technical in the psychological sense, apperception, sanya. So we begin to recognize this event for us, as I mentioned earlier. And then thinking, that means you direct your mind to initial application, vitaka. You interpret it. Okay? And then there is mental proliferation. You go on thinking about it. So actually the last part you can also, it's like a cycle. When you go back, new perceptions arise. Or you reinforce your old perception. So when you go on doing this, the general effect is that of proliferation. So feeling arises. The idea is to understand this process and understand them as impermanent. And when you understand and reflect them constantly as impermanent, then you are gently knowing what they are, then you are more empowered to let go of them, and then you are not troubled by them. On the contrary, you can feel happy on account of all these things happening to you. Right? So it is this wisdom that makes you happy. In a sense, the wise man and the foolish man see the same thing. The foolish man feels unhappy, the wise man feels happy. There is the difference with the understanding of what feeling is. Okay, so we have a few more minutes. Today we have to stop a bit early because we're going for our son's Thanksgiving Day. As you know, at this stage, to children, the presence of parents at their Thanksgiving is a big, otherwise they won't talk to you. I feel like I should be there. It's one of those moments. We're having less and less time together now because I told my elder son, I said, look, you're done with your exams, so now you have to go to the poly or somewhere. We're going to have less time with each other. You have to decide more things on your own. And I hope you do it wisely. But I'm always here at the back waiting for you, like a safety net. So I will always be there when you need us. In a sense, I'm very happy because, our nest will never be empty, but now it's there. And we have the suttas. So we're quite happy in that sense. Okay. All right, any questions? So I hope you benefited from this, what we're studying and learning. It's not finished yet, we are kind of just halfway through. The next lesson is going to be some more suttas and deeper aspects of feeling. It's a very important topic. When you understand feelings, you understand a lot of things in Buddhism. In fact, we have just finished about a third of the whole chapter, feeling. So this is something This you can read on your own at the time. Okay, no questions, sir? So we'll end here and we'll do a short reflection as usual. So in today's study on feeling, we can put it in a simple way as to live is to feel. To feel means to evaluate things in a way, to see whatever our experiences are before us, how we respond to them, and to ask ourselves why we respond in those ways, whether we like them or dislike them or we ignore them, and what happens if we do so. And when we do this, self-knowledge arises in us. With this very wholesome reflection, we have very good mental calm. By this wonderful good karma, may our minds quickly focus. May this life itself to enjoy happiness and greater wisdom in the Dharma. By all the good deeds we have done, especially our faith in three joys, keeping the precepts, training our minds, practicing generosity and so on. By all these good deeds, may we attain spiritual liberation, especially stream winning in this life itself. In this peaceful moment, let us send out our loving kindness to all those people who are close to us, important people important to us. And also to people who are still not in touch with the Dharma yet, or we have lost touch with the Dharma. May they open up their hearts and minds and come closer to the Dharma for their happiness and happiness of others. May all beings be well and happy.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.